Okay, Tridents, do you remember that time that those guilds took over 300 pulls on Halandris?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a bad time.
Those were some tough times.
You know what's even tougher?
Anduin?
Maybe Anduin.
All right, yeah, so that is what we are in now on the 10th day of the Race to World First, which is the time when almost all previous Race to World Firsts are either over,
Yes.
have been over for several days, or are about to end, right? This time in, like, Nyalotha, N'Zoth was dying. This time back in Eternal Palace, right? Those bosses were dying. This time in Sanctum, Sylvanas has been dead for 3 days. This time in Castle Nathria, Sire had been dead for a day.
Yeah.
So this is definitely, we are well past the normal here, and we are still only at 7 of 11. As of right now, the best pull on Anduin comes from Team Liquid, who don't have it sub 50% yet. They have it at 53.4 with almost 175 pulls on the boss as well. In second, we've got Echo, who have the boss at about 60% with about 100 less pulls.
Okay.
They've a lot of those less pulls, though. They've been slower. They've been more methodical. They've been able to learn from the Liquid pulls as well. And some more of those will be, eventually their pull count will include a lot less of the pre-nerf, the pre-first nerf pulls.
Yeah, so I think also something that Dratnos didn't include is I think that both Liquid and Echo are finally done with splits.
Right.
Hopefully.
Copium. Yeah.
Hopium.
No way they'll come back tomorrow and be like, actually,
We're going to split the Jailer.
Here's 5 more splits we're going to do.
Of the Jailer?
Well, I mean, it's feasible. Hey, Jailer Heroic got nerfed.
Okay, they definitely can split the Jailer.
It's splittable. Let's go.
Okay, they can split the Jailer. The odds of them splitting the Jailer, I mean, it's time. I think that they would probably better spend it on, both guilds would probably better spend it on Anduin progression right now. Anduin prog is kind of ramping up, like Dratna said. Liquid has 173 pulls on Anduin, and they are not getting into phase 2 consistently. I think that that's the biggest thing that's like kind of scary. Echo is kind of hot on their heels at being 100 pulls less. Like, Echo's also not getting into phase 2 consistently, but being 100 pulls down on that boss, this feels like it could be a massive equalizer for the two guilds.
Yeah, I mean, this boss is, again, it's shaping up to be another 300 pull special here. Different kind of difficulty than Halandris. Halandris is more kind of just like a few mechanics that are brutally tough to like deal with that wipe you instantly if they're messed up. Whereas Anduin is kind of that more traditional hard fight style of like each phase is progressively harder.
Yeah.
The mechanics kind of build on each other. And yeah, they're not very forgiving, but it's a little bit less of that bomb, explode one-shot whole raid in one moment and a little bit more of the kind of classical cascading failure leading to a wipe.
We bleed out. We started running into issues where like add HP could potentially be a problem on like the Monstrous Soul. Somebody messes up a Kingsmorn cooldown. You aren't able to heal all the Kingsmorn adds. That kind of thing is definitely the more difficulty on Anduin. It's still undetermined how difficult phase 3 is going to be. I think a lot of guilds are really concerned about the empowered Wicked Stars in the last phase.
Yeah, because it seems like they might just stay forever
and bounce around the room, kind of like the if you guys did Sisters of the Moon,
perma bouncing, just never going away and bouncing off of each wall. Yeah,
it could be really tough.
Again, we don't know how that phase works. The only people who would know are like people who made it to P3 of PTR Mythic testing, none of whom streamed it. So if any of them did even make it that far, which I doubt they did. The fight has already taken a few nerfs.
I'm surprised.
I'm not surprised. There's more than 170 pulls on this boss from Liquid, and it's above 50% health, and it's the 7th boss of the or the 8th boss of the instance.
Maybe I'm dumb for being surprised then.
Yeah, I think that this was a fight that made sense to, again, like it's not been cut in half or anything like that, but they've targeted the intermission a little bit and just taken down some of the most harsh parts about it. 2 extra seconds to mop up the souls at the end.
Yep.
A little bit less Remorseless Winter AoE damage on the whole raid.
Also, Kingsmorn, the add HP from the big tanked guy, and then the small adds that you have to kill that walk towards the boss. All of those adds, the number that was thrown around was a 15% HP nerf on those. I'm not 100% sure on that HP value, but they did get their HP cut a little bit, which will allow groups to be able to more consistently get through Kingsmorn 2. I suspect that it's not going to be an issue for the first and the second Kingsmorn of the fight, but more like the third and the fourth.
Right.
Those are probably going to be the bigger issues, especially if you're having people, like if it's happening while you have to deal with the the fear ads. Oh god, what are the
Yeah, the souls?
Grim Eternal?
Grim, okay. Could be.
The fear ads that are in phase
Yeah.
2, while you have to deal with those, it makes sense that the Kingsmorn ads need a little bit less HP, because it didn't seem like it was a problem in phase 1, probably going to be an issue in phase 2, though.
Now, the fact that Anduin didn't fall over to another reset's worth of gear, to Liquid and Echo going from 264 to 268, 269 item level.
Yeah.
Funny number, by the way. That does mean that it's increasingly likely that we are going to see this tier going to the 3rd reset, which carries a whole host of issues. I think the first, and one of the reasons why, in particular, Echo didn't think so much about, like, hey, what do we want to use in the double Lego world, right, in the 3-week world, is like, well, Liquid gets that double Lego, that 3rd reset, that huge power spike, 16 hours before Echo. So a lot of the time that this goes to, like, if you went back in time and you're like, okay, this race went to the 3rd reset, I think Echo would be like, okay, there's a really good chance that we just lost on that 15th day, right, where there was not much we could do about it. That's certainly still a possibility, but increasingly, it's looking like this may actually be deep into the 3rd reset, where all of a sudden it's anybody's game again, and that means that all of a sudden you're seeing Echo and Liquid starting to make sure, like, hey, are we getting enough rep to make sure we're revered? You know, are these characters going to be ready to put that double Lego on? Do we have comp changes that we want to make once those Covenant legendaries get added for free to everybody's kit?
Well, what gets... Okay, so I know that Moonkins get better, Mages get worse.
Yeah.
Do you know of any other class that you think get, like, notably better or worse?
I think that it's interesting because, like, I don't think you want to play BM necessarily anymore, but maybe you still do on Halandris just because BM is such a nice fight for mobility there. The tanks all... Maybe Blood has slightly worse Covenant Legos than, like, Prot Pally and Brew, but...
Resto Shaman gains a lot from a 2nd legendary.
Yeah, you could play Giga Damn Resto Shaman as well.
Battle Shaman.
Yeah, you can put on 2 damage legendaries with the Kyrian one and the Deep Tremor Stone.
Holy Paladin actually gains a fucking ton. Then they start playing Necrolord potentially.
They can,
as well.
yeah, for the 2 charges of Vanquisher's Hammer.
Yeah.
I think that probably they'll still just play Ashen and have a slightly longer Ashen in a lot of fights because Ashen is so
broken
on some fights. But it'll depend. I mean, yeah, if they don't need the Ashen, then yeah, I mean Necro is real strong.
Not only does this look like it could potentially be a 3-week tier, but it looks like it could be a 3-week tier that ends on like a Friday.
Yeah. Or a 4-week tier even at this point. Like, I mean,
no,
again,
I gotta go home eventually.
We're still not 50% through Anduin. After Anduin, there are 3 more bosses.
And
right?
I think Rygelon, at least on Heroic, was set up to be a massive damage check. It's a
right.
Rygelon
Heroic,
enrage.
It's a tight enrage timer. You got to DPS the boss, and even on Heroic, that DPS check is tight. On Mythic, I mean, one imagines that it will be real difficult.
I expect, like, okay, these Race to World First guilds, tier in and tier out, prove that that no DPS check is insurmountable for them, even the ones that, like, at face value look like they're almost impossible. There was the complexity limit N'Zoth thing where they're, like, 35% wiping to enrage on N'Zoth. Oh, yeah, surely the boss dies at 20%. It died at 0.
And they were able to get it all the way down without... I think there maybe was 1 extra reset's worth of gear from when they first saw it, but... yeah.
The Echo's Sylvanas thing, they were able to chunk, like, effectively 10% of the boss HP, 5% on Sylv, in, like, just by optimizing their phase 2. So even if Rygelon is a massive damage check, I expect that it's going to take them a lot of pulls if they need to optimize their DPS over and over again, kind of like a Sludge Fist situation. Right. But I don't think that it's going to be, like, non-doable.
The question is, like, is it doable without the double Legos, right? Like, if Anduin goes down and they get to Rygelon, is it going to be a case of, like, oh... we actually kind of just need that 10 to 15% damage across the raid from double Legos that also lets us drop a healer so that we can play another DPS.
Yeah.
And, like, there's, you know, the damage check is just not even, like, it's like a 500 pull boss to try and optimize it that hard without the double Legos. Of course, depending on when Anduin goes down, you know, if Anduin goes down on, like, Saturday or Sunday, you know, there's Lords of Dread to go and do as well. So which of Lords of Dread and Rygelon are the move to go and investigate first?
I expect Lords of Dread to be easier because, like, okay, so historically, like, fights that are, I guess I'll describe them as, like, gimmicky, but, like, they're polarized by, like, a couple of specific mechanics. Typically, those fights are on the easier end, but they're also not typically at the end of a raid tier is, like, the thing. So, like, the Among Us and the Among Us and, like, the Swarm mechanic that are the Contessa and the Mal'Ganis abilities, like, whenever they reach 100 energy, those get empowered on Mythic, but, like, I don't expect that boss to just, like, really move the needle in regards to, like, how much more difficult it is from Heroic, because It's one of those things that, like I said, it's just the gimmicky fights don't normally scale that well.
I think most people that I know of are expecting Lords of Dread to be the easiest of now the last 5 bosses.
That's probably fair.
So we'll see if that ends up holding up. A lot of expectations have been shattered this year.
I have no idea
We'll just
anymore.
have to see when we get to it. Tomorrow we'll probably be back to talk more about Anduin. Maybe it's down to like 30%, 20% by tomorrow. Maybe we see a kill out of nowhere. Maybe that last phase is actually the easiest one. Who knows?
If there is a kill tomorrow, then we'll have a lot to talk about. But I think I think tomorrow expect some footage of like potentially even phase 3. Just kind of talking about the empowered Wicked Star, looking at like how steep the damage check may or may not be on Anduin. But yeah, this is probably what we'll be looking at tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you in the next one.
Goodbye, gamers.